I used to think of home as a safe place, a haven. But that was before Karen, before the Homeowners Association, HOA turned into something out of a bureaucratic horror film, and before I realized how fragile peace really is when it's in the hands of control freaks with laminated bylaws and too much time on their hands. It started 3 years before I finally escaped. Back then, my wife and I bought what we thought was our forever home. Karen introduced herself on day 2. She was about 45, platinum blonde bob, tight yoga pants, and a clipboard that probably had more authority in her mind than the US Constitution. She said, "We like to keep things orderly here." Orderly meant monthly fines for things like unauthorized wind chimes and non-standard mailbox paint. Over time, the pressure got worse. Our HOA dues mysteriously tripled over the course of a year. Every time I tried to bring it up at a meeting, Karen cut me off. Once she fined us because our trash bins were out 30 minutes too early. Another time it was because my daughter drew chalk art on the driveway. But the real breaking point came one weekend while we were out of town. When we got back, the front door was unlocked. Inside, drawers were cracked open, and closet doors were left ajar. We checked the cameras, and there she was, Karen herself, walking through our living room. I confronted her, and she didn't even deny it, saying it was a surprise inspection because she had received anonymous complaints. She had no warrant, no permission, she just walked into our house like she owned the damn deed. I hired a lawyer the next morning. It turned out I wasn't alone. Karen had been boosting dues for certain families like mine, while leaving her little inner circle untouched. She ran the HOA like a dictatorship with baked-in corruption. What she didn't expect was that I'd kept everything, every fine notice, video footage, phone recordings, and copies of meeting minutes where my objections were conveniently omitted. The case took months. Karen, smug as hell, strutted into court, but when the judge saw the footage of her in our living room and realized my dues spreadsheet was quadruple that of my neighbors, the tone changed. In the end, Karen was ordered to pay us $80,000 in damages for trespassing, harassment, and financial abuse. She was removed from the board and assigned community service. We sold the house a few weeks after the trial. For almost a year, I saved and planned. I found a new place, a gorgeous house with a pool and land, sitting right on the edge of the HOA line. We double-checked, verified with the county records. The property was on the border, but not under their jurisdiction. Freedom had never tasted so good. The new conflict, confronting the invisible wall. The day we moved into the new house felt like crossing the finish line of a marathon. We were physically exhausted, but emotionally relieved. It was outside the HOA. We could paint the house neon green and raise a flock of flamingos if we wanted to. And then she arrived. I was unloading a bookshelf when a silver SUV crawled up and parked directly across from the house. The window rolled down. Sunglasses, platinum blonde bob, lips pursed into a polite, artificial curve. It was Karen. She stepped out of the car, walking up the driveway. "Good morning," she chirped. "Welcome to the neighborhood." "I'm Karen." I stood there, frozen, gripping the bookshelf. I watched the realization spread across her face like a slow creeping virus. "You," she breathed. "Yeah," I said flatly. "Me. What are you doing here?" She asked, too quickly. "Moving in," I replied. "This is my house." "No," she insisted. "That can't be. This property," she gestured vaguely, "was purchased 2 days ago by the HOA as a community asset." "I have the paperwork." I laughed out loud. "Do you ever get tired of making things up?" She smiled, a cold, robotic smile. Then she turned without a word, got back in her car, and parked it directly across from the driveway. Eventually, I walked over and tapped on her window. "Are you stalking me?" I asked. "Just monitoring a potential HOA violation," she replied smoothly. "Leave, or I'm calling the police." "Funny you should say that." She tilted her head. Just then, a black and white patrol car rolled onto the street. Karen was on them instantly, waving her phone and documents. The officer checked my deed, and then Karen's papers. "Sir, your documents look valid, but there's a discrepancy. Miss Bradshaw here also has ownership paperwork. We're going to have to take both of you downtown." Karen's smug little grin returned, but what she didn't realize was I was already calling my lawyer, Steve, on speaker. At the police station, Steve quickly identified the inconsistencies in Corinne's official looking folder: wrong font on the headers, a missing seal, and a signature from a notary who died 3 years ago. My documentation was solid, but because her papers looked official, the real estate fraud unit got involved. By the next morning, investigators flagged Corinne's sale as highly suspect. The LLC that sold the property to the HOA, Civic Growth Partners, didn't exist in any state registry. It was a shell. Corinne had funneled over $270,000 of HOA funds into a fake purchase. Conspiracy and financial implosion. It got darker. Investigators found emails between Corinne and Joel, a mid-level official in the county assessor's office. Joe had access to parcel records. In one email, Joe wrote, "No one will check that border property. Just register it fast. It'll hold until next cycle." Joe was suspended. Corinne immediately spun the story to the HOA, calling an emergency meeting to which I wasn't invited. She framed herself as the victim of a massive scam, claiming she had been trying to turn my home into a shared community guest house with a pool and sauna. But cracks began to show. A few residents started asking why there hadn't been a vote and why HOA funds had dropped so drastically. I received an anonymous tip, an email with an internal HOA financial statement showing a transfer of over $270,000 with the memo line: Property Acquisition Phase 1. Steve filed an injunction against the HOA, barring any official, resident, or representative from stepping foot on my property or attempting contact. The harassment continued. It started with petty things: a thick threatening envelope, eggs on the garage door, a slashed garden hose, and a trash bag full of dead fish dumped over our back gate. I went to the police with the camera footage. One grainy clip showed a hooded figure falling, their mask slipping just enough for police to identify a local homeowner and HOA member. He was arrested for vandalism. Then came the flash drive, left in my mailbox. It contained recordings and chat logs from the HOA's internal group chat. The residents weren't talking about bake sales. They were talking about me. Messages included: "He's bluffing. We should make it uncomfortable enough that he leaves." Corinne wrote, "We can't touch the house directly, but the pool's fair game." Chlorine bomb. Maybe. Another user, KBRADSHAWADMION, wrote, "Pressure makes people move. Turn up the heat." Steve amended the lawsuit that night, naming the HOA itself and multiple members personally for conspiracy and targeted psychological intimidation. The judge issued an emergency no-contact order. The arson and the final confession then: someone tried to poison the pool. Caught on camera, a man climbed the back fence at 3 a.m., poured greenish liquid into the filter, and dropped the bottle, leaving fingerprints. He was arrested and confessed everything, saying Corinne had told them it was symbolic and they needed to make the pool unusable. That led to a warrant to search Corinne's home. They found notes, lists, and a whole file labeled Reclamation Strategy, complete with diagrams of my house and scribbles like weak spot in fence and camera angles. Corinne was arrested that afternoon for conspiracy and incitement. But the worst was yet to come. Just after 3 a.m., the fire alarm screamed. We ran downstairs to find flames licking the front door. The porch was on fire. I managed to put out the blaze with an extinguisher just before the fire department arrived. Security footage showed a hooded figure throwing a homemade Molotov cocktail at the door. We caught his car on camera, plates registered to Derek Langston, one of the residents named in the harassment suit. Derek confessed. He said Corinne hadn't explicitly told him to set the fire, but she had said things like, "Someone needs to send a message, and heat gets things moving." The reckoning. With the arson charge, more residents came forward, suddenly eager to distance themselves. Linda Carver, Corinne's right hand and the HOA vice president, walked into the police station and handed over the HOA's true internal financial ledger. It revealed over $500,000 gone over the last 4 years, fake companies, inflated contracts, and a recurring payment labeled internal operations that was Corinne's personal slush fund. The dog got involved. This was now public corruption. In the courtroom, Corinne sat emotionless. Her defense team tried to spin the story that she was manipulated, that it was all miscommunication, but no one bought it. Joel, her friend from the assessor's office, had already flipped, testifying he'd helped modify records for favors. The court ordered the HOA officially dissolved. Their bank accounts were frozen, and all remaining funds were seized for redistribution. The judge delivered the sentence. Karen was sentenced to 3 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, criminal mismanagement of HOA funds, and reckless endangerment. Her bail was denied after the fire. She was personally liable for restitution and damages. The gavel fell like thunder. 3 months after the trial, the neighborhood felt different, quieter, lighter. No fines, no notices, just people being neighbors again. I got a restitution check for almost $35,000. Linda Carver came to my door with an apple pie. She apologized, admitting Karen had something on everyone. It was like a cult, she said, but not anymore. You built something better, not just a house. You tore the whole rotten thing down. That night, we grilled on the patio, watched the kids swim, and toasted to our future. No fines, no forms, no Karen, just peace. And maybe, just maybe, the faint sound of screaming from a very, very clean prison cell. We broke down that invisible wall. We proved that no dictator can survive against the truth. This wasn't just a fight to save a house, it was a fight for peace. If our legal battle against the horror known as Karen, the fake deeds, and the attempted arson shook you, then please hit the like button on this video. Comment below and tell us if you've ever had such an extreme experience with an HOA or a neighbor in your area. And yes, our journey doesn't end here. Karen might be in jail, but corruption and greed are still out there. In the next video, we'll show you exactly how we use the money recovered from the HOA to fix the last scars on our home. To see that update and to support us as we rebuild our family, subscribe now and ring that notification bell. Don't forget, the law is stronger than the clipboard. See you in the next video.